them all what I'm made up. Strut down the hall, won't stop till I get enough.
Okay, so today we're diving into something pretty wild. This whole online blow up around Assassin's Creed Shadows.
Yeah, it's a fascinating case study, really. We've got a bunch of articles here zeroing in on this specific back and forth.
Yeah, and that's what we're going to try and do today, really unpack it, to figure out who the main players were, what actually went down step by step.
Right, and what it all means. What are the bigger implications here, particularly given, the current political climate and all that, which these articles definitely touch on.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So Assassin's Creed Shadows, right off the bat, it's been facing a ton of criticism, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of it seems to stem from this character. They've included a black samurai named Yasuke.
Yeah, it seemed like this character really touched a nerve, stirred all these debates about anti-woke sentiments and the whole DEI conversation in gaming, diversity, equity, inclusion.
It all seems to have kicked off with this one tweet directed at Ubisoft. Mm-hmm. They're the ones who make the game.
Yeah, the articles point to this tweet from Mark Grum's Kern. He's pretty well known for being critical of what he sees as woke stuff in the industry. And he basically went after Ubisoft for sponsoring a stream of Assassin's Creed Shadows by the streamer Hassan.
Oh, yeah, Hassan, right. And Kern didn't exactly hold back in what he said about him.
No, not at all. I mean, the articles describe some pretty strong language. They're definitely not pulling any punches.
And then, of course, this is where Elon Musk decides to jump into the fray, right? Adding fuel to the fire.
Yeah, exactly. Musk responds directly to Kern's tweet and basically echoes a lot of the negative stuff about Hassan, calling him a fraud and a sellout, according to the articles.
So now we've got this really influential figure like Musk, weighing in with some pretty harsh opinions about both the streamer and the game itself.
Right. And he even goes on to say that he thinks Assassin's Creed Shadows looks like a terrible game and that Hassan is only promoting it for the money, so really piling on at this point.
And this is where things get really interesting because the official Assassin's Creed Twitter account actually decides to fire back at Musk.
Yeah, that's what's so crazy about this whole thing, right? You don't often see major brands directly going toe-to-toe with someone like Elon Musk. It's pretty unheard of.
Yeah. And the articles point out just how huge the response was to Ubisoft's tweet, hundreds of thousands of likes, millions of views, and the content of it is really what's noteworthy.
Yeah, what they did was basically bring up this recent controversy surrounding Musk himself, those allegations that he had other people playing his Path of Exile 2 account.
Oh, yeah, right. The articles go into detail about that whole thing, how these leaks private messages seem to indicate that Musk wasn't actually the one who achieved this high level in the game.
Right, and then his defense was basically all high-level accounts do it, which the articles say is just straight up not true.
So basically, Ubisoft used this very public, very embarrassing incident to call Musk out directly. It's a pretty bold move.
It's incredibly audacious, right? For a corporate account to do something like that. But they didn't stop there. They also went after Grums, the guy whose tweet kind of started this whole mess.
Oh, that's right. What did they say to him?
Basically, they alluded to his own video game, the one that's been in development forever and hasn't actually been released yet. And they contrasted that with Assassin's Creed Shadows, which is, about to launch.
Okay, so they're kind of throwing shade, right? Highlighting their own success while pointing out that Grums hasn't actually released anything.
Exactly. It's a pretty pointed way of doing it, for sure.
So we've got this huge player in the gaming industry, publicly sparring on social media with, a prominent critic and one of the richest dudes on the planet. And the articles really emphasize how this whole thing went viral within the gaming community.
Yeah, the reaction was huge. Tons of people talking about it online, and the articles mention a lot of positive feedback, other social media teams and developers from other studios were publicly and privately voicing their support for Ubisoft.
It's really fascinating because if you think about it, it's pretty rare for a brand the size of Assassin's Creed to directly confront someone as powerful as Elon Musk. Usually they try to avoid that kind of conflict.
Absolutely. And the articles talk about how getting tweets like that approved by a big company usually involves a lot of internal hoops to jump through.
So the fact that Ubisoft's social media team managed to get the green light to respond so strongly after facing months of criticism, it really suggests that something might have shifted in their approach.
Right, maybe they just reached a breaking point and decided to change up their whole communications strategy.
And the articles also mentioned something about Ubisoft's internal response to all this negativity. There was this shelter-in-place suggestion for their developers. What was that all about?
Yeah, basically, Ubisoft reportedly suggested that their developers take steps to protect themselves from potential harassment, from people who are really upset about the game's diversity and inclusion efforts.
So this is connected to, those past incidents where game developers have been targeted with online abuse threats and all that awful stuff.
Exactly, and this public show of support from the official Assassin's Creed account could be seen as a way to kind of stand with their team, and maybe deflect some of that negativity away from individual developers.
Right. So it's not just about defending the game itself. It's also about protecting their employees from potentially toxic online behavior.
It's a really important aspect of this whole situation, and it definitely ties into this broader conversation that's been happening in the gaming industry about the impact of online harassment on developers.
One thing the articles do is they frame this whole thing as Ubisoft pushing back against what they call manufactured controversies and endless hate, and they say they're doing it on behalf of gamers who are just tired of it all. What do you think about that framing?
Well, it's interesting because it positions Ubisoft as not just a company defending its product, but also as kind of representing this larger sentiment within the gaming community.
Wow.
This idea that a lot of gamers are just exhausted by these constant debates about diversity and inclusion.
Right. They just want to play games without getting dragged into these culture war battles all the time.
Exactly. But at the same time, we have to acknowledge that there are different viewpoints within the gaming community itself, as we saw with the initial criticisms of the game.
Absolutely. And the articles bring up a pretty big question. What could be the fallout for Ubisoft for, taking on someone like Elon Musk, someone with so much money and influence?
Right. That's where things could get really interesting. The articles speculate, and they do emphasize that it's just speculation about the possibility of Musk maybe trying to acquire Ubisoft.
But actually buy the whole company?
Well, they point out that Ubisoft is a pretty big company with a significant market cap, and obviously Musk has the resources to do something like that.
That would be insane, right?
Yeah.
Like a billionaire trying to buy a major game publisher because he got into a Twitter fight with them.
It sounds wild, but it's not entirely out of the realm of possibility, especially if he felt like he was personally wronged or if he saw it as a good business move.
It's a pretty dramatic thought. And even if that doesn't happen, the articles make it clear that Ubisoft has taken a big risk here. They've basically drawn a line in the sand.
For sure, they've adopted a very confrontational stance, and to really hammer home their message, they even included a quote from the game itself, "Where other men blindly follow the truth, remember, nothing is true."
That's a really interesting choice.
Yeah.
What do you think they're trying to say by using that line?
Well, on the surface, it could be seen as kind of a defiant statement, like a jab at the people who are so sure they're right about the game.
But within the Assassin's Creed universe, that phrase is all about questioning what you believe and looking beyond the surface. Maybe they're suggesting that the people criticizing the game don't really understand it.
That's a great point. It lets them stay true to the themes of the game while also commenting on the whole idea of truth and perception online, like what is real and what isn't.
Okay, so just to sum up the key events, we had the initial criticism of Assassin's Creed Shadows focused on the Black Samurai character.
Yeah.
Then things escalate with Mark Kern and Elon Musk jumping in, and then Ubisoft fires back at both of them on Twitter, referencing Musk's past online incident and Kern's unreleased game.
Right. And it's important to remember just how unusual it is for a company like Ubisoft to engage in that kind of direct confrontation with such high-profile figures. It's a real departure from how brands usually behave on social media.
Absolutely. So for you, the listener, we want you to think about the bigger picture here. What does this whole saga tell us about the relationship between game developers, influential figures, and the often very heated online conversations about inclusivity in media?
Right. Is Ubisoft's willingness to directly challenge these criticisms, especially in the current political climate, a sign of things to come? Is this a glimpse of how companies might handle these complex issues in the future?
It definitely gives you something to think about long after we're done here.
It certainly does. It's a fascinating case study for sure.
Yeah, it's wild stuff. Well, that's all the time we have for today, but thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the Assassin's Creed Shadows controversy.
It's been a pleasure.
We'll see you next time.
See ya.
Sound the alarm. I'm coming up. We'll have a ball. I'm sweet like a buttercup. You're Bobby doll. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. Won't stop till I get enough.